People don't get me like the Disney bundle gets me. With the Disney bundle, I get all of my favorite TV shows and movies.
Oh, wait.
I don't care about your Disney bundle.
I got another update for you guys on the Bee Tree
Oh,
tracker.
jeez. I
What
had
are you
these.
watching?
Not watching anything. I had like information ready stored on my phone, and then of course ads have to pop up, and I'm like, well, I guess I'll find them on my computer while we talk. Bastards! I swear the whole fucking world's against us.
Okay.
So I have a question.
Sure.
What in hell's bells should I do with some raccoon books I found in my junk? Oh crap! I did on my lunch break.
Sell them.
There's nothing on eBay. Nobody cares anymore.
I'd still put them on eBay. Maybe
I
she'll buy them.
give-
Lord knows she has Google alerts for everything about herself.
Ugh. I'll give it a shot. I
That's
have
why
them
if anybody says anything about her, she immediately pounces on them. She has set up Google alerts. She told me about it. If people are going to talk about me, I need to know. Okay.
well, whatever, if you want. All right. Let's see.
Yeah, she doesn't even say. From what I hear, she's not even saying that her dream is to be an artist. Now her dream was to work as in a frame store, and that was cruelly taken away from me. No, you got fired because you were an asshole, and basically she would show up when she felt like it and be rude to her coworkers, but nice to the customers. And eventually her coworkers said, "I don't want to work with her anymore." So they booted her from the Stillwater store. She went back to just being a regular employee at the Maplewood store. And then they got tired of her antics and said, "Yeah, you should go.
You should go. Goodbye.
Bye-bye." But I love how she says, "I can't find a job anywhere, so I have to work at a warehouse." Bitch, you were the one saying that you were so great at working at group homes. Our group home is so desperate now they're hiring temps. There are group homes constantly looking for people. You raised $3,000 to become a CNA.
Then I have to work.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Eh.
Yep. Yeah,
I
no,
thought
I
her
was
dream
digging.
used to be an artist.
I just
or
was
a-
digging
or a
through
hat
some
model.
shit, and then I'm like, holy cow, what the hell am I going to do with these? So
I think I wrote in both of them, didn't I?
I don't recall.
I wrote the introductions.
Oh, maybe you did. I haven't looked at them. That was back when I thought she was a wartist, but I actually enjoyed her work.
Well, back when she actually did something.
Yeah.
Instead of, here, I'm on YouTube. Aren't I adorkable? Aren't I pretty?
I'm so pretty. Oh,
Not me, man. No one wants to see this face. This is a face for radio.
yes, and podcasts.
Yes.
Hey, we got a email from somebody about being on our show. Did you catch that? It was our Facebook page.
I
See if I
might
can
have.
find
It's been a little crazy. A little.
it.
I'm just now digging out from underneath.
Discard. No, I can't find it.
Okay. I'll look later this week.
Oh, inbox. Here it is. Our crazy comics inbox. Yeah, a guy named Mel Cartagena. He's an independent creator who recently finished a graphic novel, eager to share his creation with the audience who loves science fiction, suspense, and comics. See if you'd be interested in looking at it or talk. So if you want to look at it and
Okay. I'll get back to him this weekend. I am trying to line up a librarian
you kinky bastard.
because with Mouse being banned in what is it, Kentucky, and all the book burnings going on, and that I want to talk to somebody about what it's like on the front lines of that. So that's who I'm going to be looking to interview here soon.
I know back in high school, I had this idea of passing a notebook around. I don't know if you saw the notebooks I had briefly at the shop.
Yeah.
But my cousin had done that, where you just pass it around, you add things, draw things, whatever. Well, I started doing it and then again, this was high school, where I would write a page of a story, and then I'd pass it on to the next person. They'd write a page and pass it on to the next page. And the weird thing is every time it got to a female, and again, it's high school age, they went ape shit kinky with almost porn-like quality. I mean, it was just, and I would try to steer it back, and then the next girl would like bring it back, and I was like, wow, these guys are kinkier than I am. And then the librarian caught it, because for a while there, it used to be, okay, pass it to a page, and then we were sitting in the library, and it just happened to be do a sentence, do a sentence, do a sentence. And she saw the commotion and grabbed it and then started reading it. And then all of a sudden, before the period was over, she said, I'd like to know whoever was writing in this notebook to please stay behind. And I was trying to just tell everybody, guys, blow. I got a good rapport with the librarian, just take off. And when it came, and I said, well, a lot of it, this was just my idea. And then, you could see, the first page where I would write, and then it would go to somebody and they'd kind of steer it. And I was always trying to get it back to the story. And she goes, yeah, some of this stuff is just terrible. I mean, I'm busy fighting parents to try to keep books in the library, and here you guys are sitting here writing shit that's worse. And then she kind of caught herself. But, she had books like, it was called The Minnesota Experience, which was talking about the child pornography rings, and the cop who wrote it talked about going to the IDS center, and he would stand there and he could tell, okay, she's a runaway. I busted her once. She's out pimping now. And that was the IDS court center, This would, I was high school between 79 and 83. So this would be the early part of my high school. And, I thought it was an eye opener because, I'd been through that place dozens of times. My mom would do her hearing thing up in the IDS center, and I'd run down to the Shinders and check out the Shinders on E Block, And it was always AM, so it wasn't like it was a bad deal, but so no, I kind of get where the librarians are coming from. They're kind of like, they're probably, well, I don't like this book because it has the letter I in it. I don't like the idea of my kid looking at the letter I more than once in a day. Just the dumbest ass shit. And then occasionally, you just, it's almost like that episode of WKRP where Arthur's like, well, why don't we just do it? Just stop playing these songs. It's like Johnny Fever says, yeah, but then they come up with another list. It's like for every win these idiots get, they come back with another one. So I kind of get what they do. It'd be interesting to see, although I don't know if up here, I should ask my wife. She knows people at the city of St. Paul, Friends of the Library. See if anybody would want to talk to us. But like you said, it'd be more interesting if we get somebody in the front lines there.
Okay. Well, are we ready?
Almost.
Okay. Do 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 do. How bad is it to fall asleep to the TV? But TV can be a soothing distraction. The main one is that listening to something as you drift off to sleep can help block out mental distractions. That's the whole idea behind white noise as a sleep aid. Nobody says the soundtrack to your dreams has to be white noise. Any subtle, comforting sound can do the job.
Oh.
I doubt your wife would let you fall asleep to MASH, though.
No.
Don't hassle me with your size, Chuck.
All right, let her rip.
Hello and welcome once again to Crazy Comics and Stories. It's me, your charming and delightful old Uncle Rat Bastard. And at the other end of the series of tubes and wires that we call the internets is Joe, Crazy Writer. How you doing today, Joe?
Well, let's get it out of the box right now.
Ooh, we got a box?
A beautiful, balmy 17 degrees outside of Minneapolis. We were at the high. What the high did we hit today? It was in the 20s. I had 25 on my car thermometer. And the reason we mention is because the last couple of podcasts, we've started off bemoaning the temperature. Meanwhile, a mere 24 hours ago, and as we're recording, well, maybe 48, because as we're recording this, it's a Thursday. On Tuesday, we went from about 20 below to about 20 above in about 12 hours. That's life in Minnesota, folks. A 40-degree difference in temperature, and Wednesday was hot and sloppy. We're talking like 28 degrees, and all the snow is melting. Hence the, I didn't mean to set you guys up with a jungle joke or something, but and today wasn't bad either. I'm just curious, what your podcast is going to be by next week. Now, all I know is in 38 days, I will be in Hawaii.
Now, you don't watch AEW Dynamite.
I can't.
But last night was Beach Break. And you know what city they were in for their Beach Break show, which is when the wrestlers come out, there's surfboards and palm trees. And
I would guess Orlando, maybe.
No, Cleveland.
Oh, I say that
because when you think great beaches, you think Cleveland. Now they did a bit where they went out to the one beach in Cleveland that's on the whatever the Great Lake is there, and they did jokes about how, oh, it's so cold, it's 10 degrees, the microphone's frozen in my hand.
That's 28 degrees there now.
And all I could think was last night, Tuesday night, when I got home from the group home, it was 16 below. And all I did was make sure that, the car was, because I'd left the group home, made sure that I didn't turn the heat on until I'd gone a mile or two. And then when I got out of the car, I made sure to button one of the buttons on my coat. Didn't need to button the whole thing up because I'm only going to be outside for a couple of minutes.
I button all the way to the top. I have a cold car.
And, 10 degrees. The microphone froze to Tony Schiavone's hand for the Beach Break. Now, we are at the end of January. By the time this drops, it'll be, I don't know if it's February or not on Monday. No, it's not.
No.
But February is always the coldest month of the year.
Because?
I don't know.
There's actually a month delay between how much energy the sun gives us and how it affects your local temperatures. That's why January tends to be the coldest, although December, you're getting the least amount of sun. That's, again, this isn't local weather phenomena. This is just kind of a general climate thing.
Yeah. But usually by March or April, things are warming up and getting better, and you have days where it's nice out. And all I could think of when the people I talk to about wrestling talk about, 10 degrees, that's insane. They wouldn't last a day here. Yeah. And it goes back to what I've always said. You know why Minnesota's so cold? Keeps out the riffraff.
Although we're still here.
I'm not riffraff.
Oh, yes, you are.
I'm neither riff nor raff.
I think you're a little of both.
Nope, I'm Dr.
You've just switched the R's and you're riffraff. See what I mean? I did talk to our old buddy Turbo down in Orlando. He says it's going to get to 31 on Saturday night.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they're going to panic. People are panicking now. It's like 67 there. It's like, what are we going to do? What are we going to always said, sweat it out because it'll be 70 by next Tuesday. But that's not what we came to talk to you about.
No, we came to talk about the war.
No, we're here to end the debate once and for now. Cold Pop-Tarts, yes or no?
No.
Yes.
No.
Just right out of the box.
No.
If you can always hold them under your armpit for 20 seconds. That's an old Boy Scout trick.
No, you do you put them in the toaster because they got to be in the toaster. They have to be frosted.
Yuck. No, yuck.
And Joe,
Goblin one's pretty good.
Have you ever put butter on a Pop-Tart?
I have high blood pressure and a tendency to heart attack, so no. I have taken an entire pack of Oreo cookies, eaten the white stuff, and replaced it with Spam filling.
Hold on.
Have you ever put butter on a Pop-Tart? It's so friggin' good. Have you ever put butter on a Pop-Tart? If you haven't, then I think you should. I was sitting in the kitchen one day and I was itching to fill up my belly with the piping hot jelly and the best damn treat in the world. And I saw a stick of butter and it almost made me shudder and scream like a baby girl. I don't want a giant penis or a rocket trip to Venus. I don't want to win the lottery. I just want to squat and gobble till I'm dizzy and I wobble in a butterfruit and Joe Tart dream. So I put butter on a Pop-Tart. It was so friggin' good.
Oh, it's great. Now we got Disney on our case.
If you haven't, then I think you should. Everybody
That's terrible. Terrible.
Have you ever put butter on a Pop-Tart? It's so friggin' good.
Oh.
Have you ever put butter on a Pop-Tart? If you haven't, then I think you should.
Nope, you shouldn't.
Pop-Tart with butter.
Yeah, now we're listening to cartoons now.
Yeah.
Hopefully the good folks at Disney aren't listening and slap us with a copyright infringement suit.
Oh, don't worry, it won't be on the YouTube version.
Yeah. No, they'll catch us anyways. Spies, raccoons, bad people. They'll catch us all.
Bastards. All of them bastards.
Believe it or not,
Go ahead.
Pop-Tarts. God, I want a Pop-Tart now.
I have made homemade Pop-Tarts, by the way.
There's
Which
a
are not that
place
hard.
in Duluth that serves them for breakfast, and apparently they sell out almost every day.
Well, they should. Because they're so frickin' good. Have you ever had butter on a Pop-Tart?
Here we
Haven't, then
go.
you think
That's
you
it. No, you got to stop
should.
now because you're at the 30-second mark. Boy.
I actually had just thinking about it.
See, that's what you get for having butters on your Pop-Tart.
My roommate in college used to put butter on the Pop-Tart, and at first I thought, that's just crazy, because anything done for the first time, you think that's insane. Then I did it, and as long as the Pop-Tart is warm, it's like, oh, this is so good. And not margarine, because margarine is terrible. Don't ever eat margarine. It's butter.
I thought you were going to go into about Tyson's Nuggets of Love for your Valentine. You get little heart-shaped nuggets, and then you get mustard and some other sauce that you can write your little messages on it, like "You are cool" or "XOXO," whatever.
I don't eat chicken.
You
by the
missed
way,
the
Joe,
point. You're not supposed to eat it. You're supposed to give it to whomever you care about.
but I'm the only one I care about.
Well, that explains all the Kleenex you're using.
Sad news, everybody. Sad
Oh,
news.
do we have sad news music anymore?
Yes, we always have sad news.
I
music.
don't know. I don't listen to what we got.
This will break Joe's heart.
Not my heart.
Joe, this year White Castle will not be celebrating Valentine's Day.
I've already done it.
Yeah, but nobody else gets to do it.
It's fine by me.
Such a selfish bastard.
Damn straight.
I feel like we should give to people. Give. It's all we do. You know what
It
we
ain't
should
all
do?
glory.
We should give our opinions.
We're good at that.
And we should give our opinions about funny books.
I didn't read any real funny books.
Oh. All right. Good night, everybody. It's been a wonderful show.
It has been. You're lucky to have us. We are a national treasure. The only national treasure I'm aware of without a Wikipedia page.
Well, do we want to do reviews anyway?
Oh, reviews. That's what you're talking about. Okay, hang on a second. I got to start here. Let me find the, let's see, the Freemastat onto the friggin' hammer. All right, the first one I'm going to review is an omnibus. Oh, you would think a paperback omnibus wouldn't be that heavy, but this one is pretty good. I read through Irredeemable Omnibus. This was published by Boom 2009, 2018. Tons of variant covers. 25, oh, I'm sorry, hang on, I'm on the wrong page. Let's see, we got, it went, 37 issues. You can read it in 10 book forms. There's a couple deluxe hardcover sets. The reason I mentioned the omnibus because it is out of print and insanely expensive. But while we were out cruising on our, what was the last time we went cruising? Was it Black Friday?
Yes.
I found it at Comic College for retail price. So I picked that bad boy up and we're talking like $50. But it's got the whole thing in it. I was able to read it without cracking the paper spine, which is always a plus. Irredeemable basically is Mark Waid and our friend Pete Krause doing the character's called Plutonian, and he's kind of the Superman archetype. And what happens is he goes nuts. He vaporizes a couple cities overnight, starts killing off other superheroes. And when you start the series, the carnage has already begun. And as you're reading along with it, you'll discover not only what Plutonium's going through, but what led up to him going crazy, the other members, the surviving members of the superhero team he was in. There are a lot of twists, a lot of turns. You think about any Superman, how would you say, trope, the arch villain, the girlfriend, it's all in there. But Mark Waid does a phenomenal job of just not only showing the horror of what happened if a pretty much an unstoppable hero goes insane, but also the heroes who remain trying to deal with Plutonium's rage and his reign and get him off planet or get him dead or whatever. And as you're reading it, like I said, there'll be twists where you're thinking, okay, this is it. It's got it. They're going to get him. And all of a sudden they don't. And then all of a sudden halfway through the series, you'll suddenly, you know what? I'm rooting for Plutonium all of a sudden. I want him to be able to get out of the bind he's in. Although, do you really want him back on Earth? Pete Krause does the art, and it's fantastic. Pete Krause is just, I know he's doing My Bad right now through, I talked about it. Thank you, Ahoy. And which is a different type of series because that's more comedy. But I've enjoyed Mark. Well, Mark is I've said, if he ever wrote the phone book, I would follow it because the guy knows his superheroes. Pete Krause does a phenomenal job of doing the art. And eventually Pete does back out. I think Diego Barreto does some of the art, some of the fill-ins. And then I know towards the end, I'm just ripping through the thing here. Yeah, they kind of trade off just to keep the book going. They're not terribly expensive. You could probably pick up a run very cheap, regardless if it's a variant cover or not. I love the omnibus because I know I've got the entire story. It also includes the crossover towards the end of Incorruptible, which I have the omnibus somewhere, which I'll probably read and talk about in a future episode. Because Incorruptible was basically one of the world's worst supervillains. And since Plutonium's gone bad, he kind of goes good. And of course, in all this strange world, would you really trust the villain just because the hero gone bad? To finish up, I'll just read the back of the book. It just says, when Plutonium, the world's greatest superhero, snaps, turns into the world's greatest villain, only his former teammates have a chance at stopping his rampage. While on the run from the world's most powerful and angry being, will these former teammates discover his secrets in time? How did he come to this? What became of the hope and promise once inside him? What happens to the world when its savior betrays him? That is. What makes a hero irredeemable? And like I said, I was able to luck out, get the entire saga in one single volume. This is one of those that I highly recommend. Obviously, I bought it not only in comic book form, but because I enjoy Pete Krause's work, I supported him by buying as many of the variant covers as I possibly could. And I believe at one time I had them all. Some of the cooler ones where they actually had letters for the first couple issues, and when you put them all together, it formed a giant collage that said Irredeemable with all the characters on the background. But regardless of how you do it, it's definitely worth picking up. On our scale of buy, borrow, or ignore, I would say if you just want to try it, borrow a book or two, or go dig around. Like I said, you could probably find them cheap. If you trust me, just go out and buy it. The omnibus is hard to find. I'm pretty sure you can find the other books. Every so often I do see them pop up at like half price in used bookstores. So ask around. I'm not sure if any of it's in print, but it definitely worthwhile hunting down. Now, while Cory talks about his, I got to figure out where to put this so it doesn't like destroy any one of my carefully made piles.
First book I'm going to be reviewing is Batman the Knight, issue 1, written by Chip Zdarsky, drawn by Carmine Di Giandomenico. I hope I pronounced that right. It's an Italian name, and I am not Italian. This is the story of Bruce Wayne before he became Batman. Now, we have seen variations of this story in the past. I know under the Denny O'Neil era, when he was editing, the story was that as soon as he was able, Bruce Wayne traveled the world to learn every different fighting style. Well, Denny O'Neil has been gone for almost 20 years. DC accepted this pitch from Chip Zdarsky, and it's a little more grounded version. It shows Bruce Wayne as a troubled child, getting into fights in high school, getting into fights at other schools, and learning who he is, figuring out what he wants to do, rather than, being obsessed with fighting crime as a child. It's more, how does he come to make that decision? It's the first of 10 issues. Chip Zdarsky has become really good at stories like this. He did the Spider-Man life story. He's done other stories that are sort of set in the past that don't really rewrite the past of a hero, but more tell it from a different angle. The art is beautiful in this, and the coloring really heightens that. I don't talk about coloring a lot in comics because I don't really get into that aspect, but he uses different colors for different scenes. He uses different background colors and different hues to sort of change the mood as you're reading it. The crux of the story is that Bruce Wayne is seeing a therapist, and we find out very soon that it is Dr. Hugo Strange. And it's so well done and so well put together. One of the things about DC that has been a problem for me is you don't know where the stories are set. You don't know if they're part of continuity. You don't know if, quote, they matter or not. And yes, you should be able to just, I'll just enjoy this for what it is. But the problem is that continuity thing nags at the back of your head to go, wait, this doesn't fit, this is different, this is wrong. And DC doesn't give you a guide to that. This, however, kind of is an overlay of what we already know. And it's a way to kind of use continuity without it hamstringing the story, but more to enhance the story. More to, oh, they're telling us this is Dr. Hugo Strange right off the bat. What are they going to do with that? This is a person we don't know about. What did they have to do with that? And the other thing I like about it is it really amps up Alfred's role in Bruce Wayne's childhood, because it always seemed like he was just the perfect butler, et cetera, and they've added some stuff before he was a butler with, you know, him being a British spy and all. But this really makes Alfred almost a three-dimensional character above and beyond what they've done with him in the past. I was really impressed by this book. I can't see it falling down because Chip Zdarsky's got such a good track record, but this is just the first issue. I'm giving it a buy, and I will be buying this when it is available as a hardcover, because I have a feeling I'm going to be reading this as often as I do Superman Secret Identity or Batman Year One. Joe?
The next one is another graphic novel. Like I talked about last show, I've been able to read a little bit while I'm at work, and so I've been bringing graphic novels that have been sitting around. This one is from the Sandman universe, The Dreaming Waking Hours, which was a 12-issue series, started in 2020, finished in 2021 by G. Willow Wilson. Nick Robles did the art. And this is, I haven't read the Dreaming series. If you remember, they had those 4 series that came out, the Sandman universe, that came out, published a bunch, and then disappeared. I think they all went into the 25s before they disappeared. I have the Dreaming. I have the Books of Magic. I think the Books of, what was it called? The Books of Voodoo?
I don't
and Lucifer. There were 2 other ones, Lucifer and one other one, that I jumped on, and after 6 issues, I'll pick up as trade. So this one's great because this is kind of a revisit to the Sandman universe that Neil Gaiman set up. And it kind of brings us up to date on what Daniel's been doing, other than the death metal thing that no one's been able to describe to me. So I'll just read the back of it. Let's see. It's a new chapter in the Sandman saga. Begins with an all-new miniseries populated by faces familiar and new. One of Dream's heaviest responsibilities is the creation of nightmares, the beings that haunt our sleep and turn our thoughts toward darkness. In the form of ruin, the nightmare of catastrophic failure, Dream was certain he built his next masterpiece, but ruin can't help but live up to his name, sending every situation into a spiral of unexpected consequences. Unfortunately, Shakespearean scholar and exhausted new mother, Lindy, has dreamed of ruin, and in the process, she's delivered him unto the waking world. Everything you wanted to know in Sandman is here, whether it was Pumpkinhead or Fairies Land or what everybody. This is kind of a bring you up to date on what's been going on in the Sandman universe. It's phenomenal. Mr. Wilson does a great job. I never, at any time as I was reading it, did I stop and think, you know, I think maybe Neil could have done better. But no, this is really, really fun stuff. The art is fantastic. And, you know, I'm pretty simple when it comes to art. As long as I can look at the character and not have to, you know, who is that? I got to go back a few pages and figure it out. What I really want next is a Matthew and Goldie miniseries, unless they did that in the Dreaming already. But those 2, when they showed up, a little bit of good comedy relief in the middle, lots of fun. If you're a Sandman fan, you really need to get this. I got the paperback. I probably should have got the hardcover. I don't know if the hardcover's out yet. see. No, I don't think so. I'm just looking online. It says a deluxe set. DC just went to a trade on this one. I wish they'd have gone hardcover because I'd love to place it on the shelf with the rest of my Sandman stuff. So if you've been wanting more Sandman, again, Neil probably won't do it again. This is really, really good and definitely worth picking up. The miniseries itself, again, it's not that old. You could probably find them. But at $5 a pop for the issues, you could buy this whole thing for $29.99, probably less if you can find a used copy. For me, again, it was a buy. Very enthusiastic about it. I absolutely loved it. And I recommend you do the same, especially if you're a Sandman fan. If you're not, don't even look at this book. Go all the way back to Sandman #1. They're republishing them in new editions. Old editions are all over the place. You're really missing out on a treat if you've never, ever read Sandman. Wouldn't that be great, Cory, if you could just go in your brain and go, I want to zap that little spot that read Sandman so I can reread this for the first time.
And not only that, but because I'm older, I would pick up a lot more of the cultural references and literary references that the first time I had to look up.
Yeah, and me, I just kind of bumbled through it. And then anytime there's an annotated edition or, one of those top 10 things you missed while reading Sandman. And of course, we'll get more of that because there's I believe, is it Netflix working on the Sandman show?
Yes.
I hope. Haven't heard much about it, but it's coming. So more and more people will be jumping on the Sandman bandwagon. Here's your chance. If I was late to the show, I picked up about issue 20. And I was able to go back and pick up everything without them being too bloody expensive. And if you remember our podcasts on my sketchbook, we actually got to meet Neil back before he was Neil Diamond and just, some guy doing a comic book, and you could sit and talk with him for a little bit. So anyways, if I run into G. Wilson, I will definitely, or Nick, I will definitely tell him how much I enjoyed this one. What you got up next, Cory?
Let's see. Next one I have is Peacemaker, Disturbing the Peace, a one-shot written by Garth Ennis and art by Gary Brown. Now, if you are watching the Peacekeeper series on HBO Max, which I hear is fantastic, or you've read any Peacemaker series before, I want you to take that and put it out of your mind because this is Garth Ennis. Garth Ennis, who did Preacher, War Stories, that run of The Punisher, that made them turn it into a Max book. This is sort of how Peacemaker came to be, his origin in the Black Label. And again, it has absolutely nothing to do with any Peacemaker story in the past. It is a Garth Ennis story, which means it is violent. It means it is transgressive, which means it is thought-provoking, and it also means that he only has one issue to tell it. So, like a good short story, it's a quick punch to the gut. Ray Bradbury always said, if you're going to do a short story, it has to come in, hit its impact, and be done. This is a good short story. Garth Ennis has a tight story, giving us this Peacemaker character unlike any we've seen. The art by Gary Brown is very conscious in how it looks like art. You can see the pen and pencil lines, especially in the flashback sequences where he's sort of the Peacemaker character is talking about his past. The art is tighter when it's in the present, but looser when it goes to the past because we're seeing it through his eyes and his memory. This is, I think a while back, DC talked about they may discontinue Black Label because of all the crap they got over Batman's Wang. I'm glad they didn't, because Garth Ennis is one of those guys who I don't think he could write a code-approved book, nor would I want him to. I don't want him to write a book for ages 12 and up. He writes adult stories with adult themes that will always. He's had a few misfires here and there, but for the most part, When he steps up to the plate, you know he's going to give you a book that you have to buy. This is not one you can wait for as a trade paperback because it's a one-shot. It's well worth the money. You're going to read this more than once, and when you get to the end of it, your jaw is going to be, you're going to need to pay someone to come to your house and push your jaw back up because your jaw will have dropped and you can't get it back up. Just an excellent comic. And this year I am keeping track of my favorite books of the year so we could do a best of at the end of the year. This is definitely on that list.
Oh, you didn't tell me it's going to be homework.
Well, it's about time you started doing something.
What are you talking about? I finally started reading graphic novels again. And
have you started
the
reading
next ones
Spider-Man?
I read back. Actually, I sold those, so I don't have to. But the next one I read, I guess you could call it out of order. I didn't mean to. As I'm perusing my shelf looking for things to read, I realized, oh, Top 10 by Alan Moore, Gene Ha, and Xander Cannon. I have never finished it. I started reading it, but as you said, Cory, you almost have to be a certain age or maturity to read it. And when Top 10 came out back in 1999, I was probably not ready for it. I bought it because, oh, Alan Moore, come on. It was part of the American Best Stories, which I think at that time was Wildstorm. Wasn't it part of the subset of Image, maybe?
Yes.
It all got
under Wildstorm, and then DC bought Wildstorm. So they had to create kind of a wall between DC and Alan Moore.
Yeah, which doesn't sound like it worked. But anyways, so I grabbed Top 10 off the shelf, got to work and found out it was Top 10 The 49ers. This is actually a prequel, which came out about 4 or 5 years after Top 10 finished. They call it a sort of prequel, but I'll call it is a prequel. Alan Moore wrote it. Gene Ha did the art, which is probably why I bought it, because I think it was probably advertised as Gene Ha or Alan Moore's back writing 49ers in 2005, which I found ironic because a little sidebar here. There's a book out that I believe it was Don Simpson did, in Pictopia.
Yes.
That it was a giant size at Fantagraphics, I believe, just published recently. I got it sitting right now on my shelf. I'd bring that to work and try to read it, but it's way oversized, and it's like reading those old Marvel DC treasures. You get damaged. Don published a letter from Alan Moore, and I don't know if Alan sent it to Don or if it was sent to somebody else, but the big thing is that Alan doesn't care about comics anymore. He doesn't want his name on anything. If Don and the people that did Pictoria get something by publishing this, so be it. He does not want his name in it anymore. He's just, in his mind, he had such a rotten time doing comics, and we're not going to get into it because that's not what the review's about. He's out. As I was reading these books, I was sending Cory texts of pictures that I was reading out of, well, mostly out of Top 10, and some of it just really silly stuff. Like there was oh heck, now I'm not going to find it. Let me find it. I am not going to find it in the book. All my paper marks fell out. Allow me to jump on Facebook. Good thing we can edit this out or just make it sound like I'm an idiot. It's one of those jokes that are just kind of, if you're a comic smart like me, you'll get. And let's see, come on, it wasn't that far away. Great, now we get the Jeopardy people pissed at us. I can't find it. It was a little truck, an exterminator truck. And on it said radioactive spiders, career-defining bats. I laughed so hard at that. And it's not even part of the storyline. It's just a little background piece that you catch. And in the main Top 10, as you're reading it, Gene Ha and Xander Cannon throw this stuff everywhere. And I would suspect it's because of Alan Moore writing, just saying, put this in the background, put that in the background. We won't know. Alan's not going to talk about it. But as I'm reading top 10, not so much 49ers, because 49ers kind of introduced me to characters that if I'd read top 10 first, this is, you're kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of like watching Star Trek Discovery before you watch Star Trek, the original series. But halfway through it, I was asking Cory, I said, why is it that a brilliant series like Top 10 is not currently being published, yet we've got 5 zillion Batman books? There's something seriously wrong with the comic industry. Cory will attest, they're selling better than ever. But the fact that we don't have an ongoing Top 10 series, by Alan Moore or not, is almost criminal. Oh, man, I got to my ending before the beginning. Anyways, top 10, 40.
Hello? Hello? Are you there?
Okay, folks, my bad. I accidentally hit the airplane mode on my computer while I was going on and on. So, but all I can say is top 10 is fantastic. Even if you don't believe me, go borrow the book. But I recommend picking it up. It's a joy to read, again, from Alan Moore's writing to Gene Ha's, Xander Cannon's art. Half the fun in the background, especially when reading top 10, is just looking for the background things. Like here's a ad, okay, Fortress of Pizza Daily Special, Sidekicks, The Wondering, Taper CD Multimedia. Just, signs in the background. There's something conditioner, the natural wingtip, and it's obviously Wolverine. You really got to watch what's going on. It's just fabulous. The fact that this is not being published now is more a condemnation of the comic industry as it is. The fact that it's available, and that I don't know, because the top 10 I have is under the Vertigo logo. And this was published about 2001. I'm sorry, 2015 is when this version was published. 49ers came out under America's Best Comics. But I don't know, it doesn't indicate that that's a logo of anybody, or if it's its own.
Yeah, America's Best Comics is part of the Alan Moore thing.
Okay, because it has a 2005.
Yeah. And
Now,
I believe Alan Moore did not work on that one, did he?
49ers?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, there was one after it that Gene Ha did on his own.
There's a couple different ones, because that was when I discovered that I was rambling for 5-10 minutes and you weren't there, because I asked you, are there any other top 10s that Alan Moore did? Because you got Beyond the Farthest Precincts, Top 10 Season 2. That was Xander Cannon, Kevin Cannon, and Gene Ha. And that was through Wildstorm, which at the time. Yeah. So, again, that was 4 issues with a special edition. It doesn't look like any book, so obviously it didn't have the same. But it was still under America's Best Comics. So let me look at top 10. There's also an absolute top 10, which I may end up just getting because there's some miniseries. There's some. I'm having trouble. Are you shocked? Absolute top 10. Absolute top 10. Scott, top 10, 1 through 12. Smacks 1 through 5. America's Best Comic Special 1 in the graphic novel top 10 49ers. So that must be all the stuff Alan Moore did. And then there's a number of other series and things that he did not do. So either way, I highly recommend this one. And if you're, dubious, it's been around long enough, you should be able to borrow a copy or dig some cheap copies. I don't think the actual series is that terribly expensive. Oh, well, what's next for you, Mr. Strode?
I have a book here from Aftershock called Silver City. It is written by Olivia Quattaro Briggs, drawn by Luca Merli, another European artist. A lot of European artists are breaking into comics over the last decade or so. They bring a very different style that I enjoy, but it took me a while to kind of acclimate myself to. This story it starts with a plane crashing into an airport. And everyone who is in the airport wakes up in a waiting room. They are being sorted to see who survives and who dies. And the people who die go to Silver City. So our through character is someone named Rue. She is the one who we are following as she learns about the sorting process, learns about what the afterlife is like. And it's not, any heaven you've ever thought of. It's more kind of like a slum. And in the afterlife, sadly, you have to get a job. You have to pay rent. You live forever. But if you get injured, let's say you lose a bit off your little finger, it never ever grows back. Any injury you get never heals because you're already dead. This issue was all set up. And I hate to say it, but the lead character did not hook me. She was almost kind of a blank. The only really defining part about her is that she has a boyfriend. They get separated in the sorting room, and then she kind of, okay, I guess I'll look for him later. She ends up crashing at the apartment of two people who've been there a long time. We were kind of showing her the ropes. While this is all set up, it didn't, other than the setting itself, it did nothing to hook me as a reader. There is a little girl who's there who may or may not have special abilities. I'm sure that was supposed to be the hook, but your hook in a first issue needs to be more than just, oh, this setting is cool, because there are a lot of cool settings. You need to have a character that you care about, whether you don't like them and you want to see them get punished, or you do like them and you want to see them understand this, or you have a couple and you want to see them get back together. But because she doesn't really, because that doesn't seem to be the driving force, if it's not driving her as a reader, it's not going to drive me either. So in the end, this becomes a borrow. I will check in on it when it's a collected edition to see if the story picks up. But as a first issue, this did not hook me at all. And I wonder if it was because this is not a writer who's worked in comics a lot. I wonder if they just don't know that, hey, somebody's paying $4 for a first issue. You better give them something so they want to come back, because there's a couple hundred books on the shelf and you could get lost in that shuffle pretty easy. Joe?
The next book I'm going to talk about in terms of the creator. I ran across a book by Mark Kalesniko. He's a Canadian artist, started his career, moved to California about 1981, got a BFA in character animation, worked in the animation industry. In the 90s, branched out into adult-themed comics and graphic novels. His first story, Adolf Hears a Who, was an 8-page story in Pictopia, the book we just talked about. And I don't know if it's in there because I haven't opened my copy yet. But he has done a lot of stuff through Fantagraphics, Alex, Why Did Pete Duel Kill Himself? Mail Order Bride. If you Google his name, Kalesniko, Kalesniko, you'll get to his webpage. He's got short stories, OCD, Tarantula, Uncle Bob. What got me introduced to him is I'm digging through my vast accumulation of crap. I have a book called SOS, published through Fantagraphics. I have no idea when. Let's take a look here. 1992. It's a comic book, totally wordless. Essentially, it kind of looks like it's somebody lost on a raft in the middle of a sea. She puts in a bottle, "Dear family, SOS, love, Chloe." Throws the bottle away, and then we wait. It's a short story, and like everything that has no words, essentially, you gotta linger and take some time onto the actual artwork, because the art tells a story. You don't have the words kind of bringing it forward. Generally, I'm kind of opposed to these. I have no idea where I bought this, though. I don't know if I bought it off the shelf. I don't know if I got it out of a 50-cent bin or whatever, but it's endearing. I really, really enjoyed it. The odds of finding one are pretty slim because it's, like I said, if a book is not hot, there's less chance of it being in a book bin somewhere. However, his other stuff is not, and you can go to Fantagraphics and look to see what he has currently published. He also has stuff on his blog. You can just Google his name in eBay, and you'll come up with the books I talked about, Mail Order Bride. There's some of the comics, Alex, or just buy the book. A lot of his stuff's out of print, but he's still chugging away, so you can still kind of find his stuff and go for it. SOS, I thought, was very interesting. I very much enjoyed the style. The end of it was actually kind of one of those hooks where you were just like, okay, I didn't quite see that one coming. I'm not going to tell you anymore because I want you guys to go find it. But if you're so inclined, it's just one of those things where I got introduced to this guy through this comic that I have no idea where I picked it up. And now I'm going to be looking for his stuff, whether it's reoffered by Fantagraphics or if I happen to be digging through half-price books or flowing through the eBays and I happen to run across his stuff. Some of his stuff may be available as downloads. I'm on his... he's got PFDs that they may be free for all I can tell. Let me just click on one. Oh, how about that? The document's opening. So if you want to check it out, head over to his blog. It's Mark Kalinko, whatever. Look how I spelled his name. Mark, KALESNIKO.com. And his works are there for you to download and enjoy and check them out. I'm not even going to ask if you beg, borrow, buy, borrow, or ignore, because here's your chance. You can go for free and check it out to see if it's something you want. And then if you do, you can go buy the stuff. I obviously did somewhere along the line, but again, I don't know where I picked this up. I mean, just by looking at the package, the cover, it was intriguing enough. And I must have just picked it up because I swear, if I could just buy comics based on the cover alone, my comic collection would be probably about 20 times as big as it is. And this one, like I said, it was just fun. It was a great introduction to a guy who's been around longer than I know. Here's your chance. You can check it out to see if you like him for yourself.
My last two reviews, I'm going to combine into one because they're both kind of very, very similar books, Joe. Ben Reilly, Spider-Man by J.M. DeMatteis and David Baldeon, and the new Silver Surfer Requiem by Ron Mars and Ron Lim. Both of these books are Marvel 90s nostalgia pops. They're 5-issue miniseries. I picked up the first issues. I'm a big fan of J.M. DeMatteis. I'm a big fan of J.M. DeMatteis on Spider-Man. The Ben Reilly book is set right after Peter Parker and Mary Jane have moved off to Seattle and are not going to be around anymore. and Ben Reilly is going to be the new Spider-Man. And with any J.M. DeMatteis book, this delves into the psychology of Ben Reilly. It's not the Ben Reilly currently in the Beyond storyline in Spider-Man. This is the Ben Reilly of the 90s, who was the clone that wandered around for 5 years and didn't know if he belonged and didn't know if he could live up to being Spider-Man anymore. And at this point in the story, we thought he was the real Spider-Man. DeMatteis is so good with Spider-Man and so good at psychologically based stories that just kind of get into a character's head and poke around. But as I read it, I understood that this is not current storytelling style. It's very much a 90s style, and not in the image, everybody's got pouches and guns, but in that there are huge blocks of text. Huge blocks of text, internal dialogue. The story is almost all internal except for a fight scene near the end. And it does kind of require you to know what was going on in Spider-Man in the 90s. If you did, this is kind of a cool way to go back to that. If you didn't, you may not know what the heck is going on. But you can kind of piece it together. The Ron Mars and Ron Lim Silver Surfer story, on the other hand, you have to know what was going on in the Silver Surfer book in 1993, 4, and 5 to have any clue at all what is going on. It very much feels like it's just right there, 5 issues missing that were never printed that somebody found in a drawer. Ron Lim's art is clean and easy to read, and I love his art. There's a reason why when he took over for George Perez on the Infinity Gauntlet, people didn't march to Marvel with Frankenstein rakes, pitchforks, and torches. He's got that. He's able to draw superheroes very, very well. And he draws action scenes incredibly well. Ron Mars knows these characters, but he doesn't take a lot of time to introduce them. He just kind of throws you in, and it's a story that plays with reality. So even if you think I know what Thanos was up to at that time. Oh, wait, no, we're in everything's different now. This one is very much, if you were not a fan of that particular run with those particular creators, you should just avoid it because you're going to be lost. But if you are an older fan, you do remember that, it's okay. This is not something that you're going to go, that will be enshrined in a hardcover selling forever. This is just a really nice 90s style superhero book with fight scenes and nice art. And if you miss the Captain Marvel, who was Captain Marvel's son, boy, he's all over this one. But both of these felt really odd to me because they were just nostalgia pops. And I have to think that the audience for it is limited, even though you have tons of people online who will say, why can't they make comics the way they used to? I will bet you $100 that most of the people who say that don't pick this up. Why?
Probably not reading comics now.
Well, no, because they're just complaining. They're complaining,
Yep.
complain to complain.
Rah, rah, rah.
It's like when DC would do stories in the 90s that were like the 60s stories and even had the 60s creators. You owned a shop. You had trouble getting those out the door because those fans were like, but it's not part of the continuity of today. So it's that weird gap in that I want comics the way they used to be. Okay, here's comics the way they used to be, but that's not what I want. Give me what I want. For both of these, I give a very qualified buy, but again, wait till they're a trade paperback because they're 5-issue miniseries. If you enjoy these creators' work in the past, you'll like this because even though Ron Mars does more modern stuff, Ron Lim does more modern stuff, J.M. DeMatteis does more modern stuff, they are kind of stepping back into their old shoes It's almost like heading back to your high school for a high school reunion. You don't want to hang out there, but boy, it's fun to just kind of walk around the halls. And you know what else is fun walking around the halls with, Joe?
Summarizing news each morning?
No, protection for your computer. And NordVPN's going to tell you how to do that. Our newest sponsor is NordVPN. Let's be honest, if you're out on the internet, you need a VPN to protect you. There's all sorts of things going on the internet where people can track you. You could accidentally download a keylogger, all sorts of things. NordVPN gives the best security possible. It has a password manager which generates complex passwords, syncs across all your devices, stores your notes and credit card information. It also gives you 10 gigabytes of private cloud storage, secure files. It backs up your data automatically. But the main thing it gives you is peace of mind. It gives you peace of mind when you're out on the internet, when you're streaming, when you're playing games, when you're listening to podcasts like this one. It gives you safety anywhere at any time. It protects your online activity. You get full access to all content. And if you use the link go.nordvpn.net sh3ku, it'll take you to where you could get a great deal for a 1-month plan, a 2-year plan, a 1-year plan. They are our newest sponsor. We're happy to have them. And if you would like to sponsor something here at any of the podcasts on the Solitaire Rose Network, you can. Just email me, solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks. And boy, did I used to do a lot of podcasts. And guess what? Boy, I wish I had time to do them again. Who knows? Joe's going to be on vacation. I got a week off coming up. Maybe they'll come back. The Solitaire Rose Radio Network is currently on a pause, basically because COVID-19 has made it so that I have to work a lot of extra hours at both jobs. But you can still go and listen to my other podcasts. Now, you're probably listening to Crazy Comics and Stories, which is the main podcast. But on this same feed, KRAYZCOMIX, is Solitaire Rose Radio, the solo radio podcasts that I do. I've done interviews, I've done short stories, I've done all sorts of things, and you can get to it right here on this same feed. I also do a podcast called Novelcast, where I take the novels I've written and turn them into free audiobooks. That's over at novels.solitairerose.com. Dangerous Dan Moore and I, and of course Wolfie B. Bad, give you bad advice over at badadvice.solitairerose.com. You send in your questions, and we give you the aforementioned bad advice. And then myself and Adam Vermillion from For the Love of Comics do the Fantastic Forecast at fantasticforecast.solitairerose.com, where we go through the issues of the Fantastic Four, 4 issues at a time, to give the plot and commentary on each issue. That's not all. Yes, I'm crazy. I still, over at pwinsiderelite.com, every week on Wednesday, do a recap of the latest episode of AEW Dynamite. I write up what happened, and then myself and Anthony Pyrus will do an audio. Now, you can only listen to the audio, if you remember, at pwinsiderelite.com, and if you're a wrestling fan, you should be, where we then break down the episode, talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, give it a grade, and let you know if you should have watched that episode. Those are the other podcasts here at the Solitaire Rose Radio Network. Thanks. And one thing that never ever goes away is Joe's favorite part of the show. No, not where I read Zen sayings and meditate while floating 3 inches above the ground. No, it's Joe. What's going on the eBays?
Oh, all sorts of stuff going on the eBays. Greg Horn had a comic that was very unique. It was White Widow #5 Mosaic Artist Proof, where apparently only 30 of these comic books were sold as sets by Absolute Comics. And they sent Greg 5 copies to give his okay on. All 5 of the copies were then triple signed by him, the White Widow co-creator, writer Benny Powell, and editor Jenna Powell. And he put one on the eBays. And it was just drop dead gorgeous. I mean, it was, it's one of those where if you look real close, you see the individual images and you zoom on back and you get the full cover. 9.8 graded with a yellow cover, so certified that it was signed by these guys. It is a little higher than I wanted. It ended up selling for about $509 with 41 bids. But you think there's only 5 of them triple signed like that. It's just kind of neat. But it was interesting because Greg posted it under his Greg Horn art. So if you're not following him there, you never would have seen it. And who knows, it might be something you wanted. Whereas, meanwhile, if you're a guy like me who's very interested in getting a copy of the Superman The Wedding Gold album, are you familiar with this?
I vaguely remember they did something like that because it was a big deal.
Yeah. There were 250
I was
gold,
never into the gold, platinum, all that.
But you never would have gotten it because it was only available through people. They gave like Dan Jurgens a copy, or they gave whoever was working on it a copy. And one of them popped up on the eBays, graded. I'm not really into graded comics because if I buy a comic, I would at least like to look at it. This one was a 9.8. There has not been a gold album out for a while. I should say the Superman Wedding Gold album. The only one I've ever seen, I know our good buddy Nick Post found one and gave it to buddy Brian Wilson, who used to run MCBA, used to shop with me. I haven't seen Brian in years. And he did it because Brian was like probably #1 Lois Lane fan of anybody. And so that was kind of cool. But for a while there, they surfaced. They were like just all over the place. I think people realized what they had. They dried up. They said there's only like 250. At least I think there were. This is a limited commemorative edition that was signed that went up. So that was kind of cool. But some of the times we get some fun stuff, like one of our listeners to the show who sells on eBay under Bluin 36. I'm sorry, that's BLOUIN 36. And he sent us a note saying, "Hey, I just saw this auction and wondered if you and Cory had ever heard of these." And what they were little circular comic books that apparently came on specially marked jars of Peter Pan peanut butter. And they're about the size of the lid. They all have little, like almost cuts out of them because that's how you got them, peeled them off the lid. I don't know if they came on the top or if they were inside it. You can, however, go on to eBay and look because they do have, some guys have the actual promotional posters where it says, "Look for free Spider-Man mini comics on specially marked jars of Peter Pan peanut butter." And then, "Hey, Spidey fans, order your exclusive Spider-Man digital watch. Get them quick before time runs out." And then there's a huge thing that tells you, "Send it into Peter Pan Watch Office, P.O. Box, blah, 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 Maple Plain, Minnesota," which had one of the clearinghouses for almost all these things where they would bring them in, you'd send it in, and if you sent the check with $2, in this case, the watch was $7.50 with 2 postages and 2 proofs of purchase, which were barcode symbols at the time, from 18-ounce jars or larger of Peanut Pan peanut butter. Now, Cory, of course, did not know this because, as we all know, Cory hates peanut butter.
No, I just never eat Peter Pan peanut butter.
And this was, of course, back in 1995. And I got to admit, I never really was big fan, although I remember the Peter Pan thing. So, again, that was something I thought really interesting. I was never aware of these mini comics available just on Peter Pan peanut butter things. What I was aware of, thank you, Blowin, for telling us that. Again, check out his stuff on the eBays, BLOUIN 36.
I did have to check. Peter Pan peanut butter does still exist. Do you know? Does Joe know when was Peter Pan peanut butter invented and put on the market?
I would say it would have to be sometime in the 70s because that's when I remember the ad I am singing about.
1920.
Oh, really?
Yep, it is now owned by Post.
Oh, so it's probably
Post
more regional
Holdings.
than anything. Because I know when I go to the Targettos, it's Jif, Skippy, and then their own brand.
Yeah.
And I haven't
I
looked
haven't
at peanut
seen
butter.
Peter Pan peanut butter in forever.
Yeah, so it's around. To round out our eBay thing, and I got to tell you, folks, I'm putting lots of stuff on eBay. The 3 days I'm off and a few other days, I just sit down. I'm going through my collection. I'll talk a little bit more about it, or maybe not. I mean, it's just an ongoing thing. I got tons of stuff. I'm going through everything. And as I go through, I discover things that I didn't know I had, like the aforementioned SOS comic, things that I've never read, which, we'll talk about as the podcasts go on. And then, of course, there are the things that I've sold. I'll just do some of the more interesting ones. I sold a Batman 50 Jay Lee variant that Jay Lee himself had signed. A Batman The Adventure Continues #4 with a Peach Momoko cover. This was, I guess, Frankie's Comics. In other words, I have no idea how I picked it up because I've never been to Frankie's Comics. Let's see, some other fun things. G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, number 187 from 2013. Those are the higher numbers in the IDW series. They're going for some silly money, which makes me think that people were not buying this book, or if they were, they're just discovering it. Because this is where Larry Hama continued the original numbering and just kept going with it. Let me see if I can call this thing up. Let's see. Larry Hama and S.L. Gallant was doing the art. And by silly money, I'm talking $20 for a book that originally priced $3.99 and came out in 2013. So I think you said it, Cory, in the late part of the 90s when comics were kind of dying. He said, this is the time to be buying back issues and sitting on them because a lot of people ain't buying them. Kind of going on now. And, we really haven't done how are things selling. I'd be real curious how this book is selling. Obviously still doing good because IDW is publishing it. They're not going to be publishing now Transformers. I had the 4 RI covers of Transformers, Dark Side of the Moon. RI, of course, are the retail variants. So if you're flipping through any IDW books and you happen to see that RI, that was just an incentive book your retailer had to buy certain copies of. Sort of like the Star Wars 12 Stuart Immonen sketch variant cover from 2005 from Marvel. Let's see, I sold a Hitman 1. Guess how much a Hitman 1 sells for, Cory? Mine was near mint.
$25.
Well, that's what his guide's at. I sold mine for a balmy $6.99.
Oh, wow, I was able to guess how much it guides for. That's cool.
I went low because that's what I do. I sell my stuff low. The only other weird things that sold, I got a couple guys battling out. I had a bunch of Lady Death Avatar books that were the leather editions. And again, I price them low, and guys are just buying them 2-3 at a time. And they're like, do you have this? Do you have this? It's like, no, I only generally get one of anything like that I buy. But again, I've got tons. Oh, I got to give a call out to my good buddy Mike Pasqualini. He bought a copy of Strange Academy number 13, the Unlucky 13 variant cover that came out last year. Mike, of course, back when we were actually putting some music at the end of our podcast, he let us play a couple of his. He actually sent me some tracks, so maybe in the future we'll drop a few of them. Instead of hitting my music, we'll hit some of Mike's music. In the meantime, you're never left out because, like Cory alluded to, eBay's 24/7 going all the time. KRAYZ. Couple ways to get a deal for me. Either send me an email where you say, hey, I listen to the podcast. What's the best deal you can do for me? What allows me to, a lot of times I can just send something back and send you an offer. And believe me, if you say, hey, would you buy this? $15? I'd probably say, no, you're only going to pay 10 because you're a valuable listener to this here show and we treasure you. So the other way to do it is, I don't know, just buy it. Let me know even if you buy something at full price, if you listen to this here show, I will throw in something fun. Maybe I'll throw in that SOS comic I talked about because I read it once. I'm not going to read it again. You know what to do, KRAYZ. Come get some.
Would you like a little peanut butter history, Joe?
Why not?
I get curious about things like this. Peter Pan was actually the first national peanut butter brand. It was kind of created toward the end of the 19th century. George Washington Carver published his document about peanuts, how to grow the peanut, and 105 ways for preparing it for human consumption. He had peanut butter, but it had already been developed or patented by various pharmacists, doctors, and food scientists working throughout the U.S. There was also a related dish named Pinta Claus peanut cheese. It was more solid than modern peanut butter and could be cut and served in slices like cheese. First was Peter Pan, was the first national brand because there were a whole bunch of regional brands, as well as during World War II, the government gave it out for Meatless Mondays. I'm sorry, during World War I, they gave it out for Meatless Mondays. Then Skippy, which is where they started churning the creamy peanut butter with partially hydrogenated oil to make it smoother. Then Procter & Gamble launched a peanut butter named Jif, which was sweeter than the others due to the use of sugar and molasses in its recipe. So those are your big brands there. Superman peanut butter, I remember as being pretty terrible.
Yeah.
And then Reese's has a peanut butter as well that has way too much sugar in it.
Do you remember Kugel?
No, I don't know if they had that down in Central Illinois.
Yeah, it was Here Comes Kugel with the googly eyes, which had vanilla peanut butter, banana peanut butter, chocolate peanut butter.
No, we never had that.
Oh, man. And again, it was so sweet your lips would pucker. But, yeah, it's amazing how much I can remember the stupid logos with music, but not the peanut butter.
And last thing before we go to our next segment, because you brought up bananas, I found out this week, I did not know this, that the primary flavor in circus peanuts, unless they are specially fruit flavored, etc., is banana flavoring. And when I eat them, they taste like sugar. Not bananas, just sugar.
Sugar.
But no, we're not going to talk about peanut butter anymore. We're going to talk about my favorite part of the show.
Stuck to riff in my mouth.
No, not where I just eat scoops of peanut butter while Joe's trying to get me to read tongue twisters.
Do you know what we used to do? One of the things in Boy Scout camps, you used to have to swim out to a dock, jump on it, eat crackers with peanut butter, whistle, a clear whistle, and then jump in the water and swim back. First one back to the shore won a prize.
Did you ever win?
I never tried. See, because what I found out, and my brother won, what he would do is before he jumped up, he would make sure he had a mouth of lake water. So when it got in there, it would dissolve. He could swallow it quicker and whistle. Yeah, I know, but we're Boy Scouts. What do we know?
Fish shit in that water, man.
Well, we peed in it too, it's lake water. What do we care? It's
freaking and geeking. Joe, what are you freaking on other than your brother drinking out of a fish toilet?
I'm not freaking on much. I did notice, though, when I went on my geeking trip, Half Price Comics is doing something interesting with some of their books. If a book is, first of all, they do something that, I blame the Shinders for because I absolutely hated it. They would just slap a clearance sticker right on the fucking book, and It was largely unremovable. They do that to some of their clearance books where they just slap it's a 50-cent book or a quarter book. But what they've done, some of them, they've actually put the stickers on the book because the book isn't bagged. And we've talked a bit in the past how some books are harder to find than others. There was a bunch of books I was going to pick up, but that damn sticker. Now, what they do is, and I've got one right here. If you've ever bought a book from Half Price Books, you know their stickers are largely removable. What they've been doing is they put that price sticker on one of their big yellow stickers, and I've got one here on a comic, and yeah, you angle it at kind of a 90-degree angle, and it peels off pretty nice. No glue behind it. So again, it freaked me out, but you know, and again, this will work really, really well on new books with shiny covers. But if they start slapping that shit on some Golden Age or Silver Age books, you're going to rip that cover right off by buying it. I didn't see that. I just saw it mostly on the new books and was only a couple of half-price books. And I'll probably hit a few more as time goes on. Just weird. I don't know if Half Price, I don't ever recall them selling books without a bag. I recall not every book is bag and boarded, which always sucks when you get that one book you're looking for, but it's cracked in half because, somebody was not paying attention how they were doing it. So that's pretty much it. I mean, other than that, well, I'll talk about it when we get to geeking. But Cory, what you got that you might be freaking on?
Joe, do you remember the 80s?
Having lived in it and reliving in it, yes.
Do you remember a comic shop known as Friendly Frank's?
I do.
Friendly Frank's was a comic shop in Chicago that got busted for selling porn. And this was during a time when the Attorney General of the U.S. went to the Attorney Generals of every state and said, you need to crack down on porn. Yes, we just did a study that shows that porn does not cause crime. We're going to ignore that study because the people who voted for us, they want porn gone. And they went in and they had an adult go into Friendly Frank's and buy a bunch of comics. And it was an undercover cop and he arrested the clerk and they went after the owner. And that was the incident that created the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. This was not, however, the first time books had been banned or the government had gone after books because they were dangerous. Banning books has been a part of governments since there have been books. Over the last 5 years or so, the right wing in the South and in rural areas have been targeting books. Their big targets now are anything that has to do with LGBTQ people. They don't want those books in school libraries.
Save the children.
They don't want them in kids sections of regular libraries. They have
every time you masturbate, God kills a kitten.
They have long lists of books that they are going after. And this week, it came out that I think it's in Kentucky, the school board voted 10-0 to get rid of the graphic novel Mouse, which was Art Spiegelman's book about him talking to his father about his father's time in the Holocaust.
Well, I mean, that's probably because it's a very serious subject and it's hard to talk about the Holocaust. You just can't spring it on kids. You should really have some historical context to just realize just what a horrible, horrible event it was, right? That's why they banned it, right?
Well, they said they banned it because there was nudity in the book.
I heard also it's because they've had that word "goddamn" in it.
Well, the school board said that because of the nudity, it's not fit for children. However, they've been going after books about the Holocaust. They've been going after books about history. They've been going after books that don't tell a history in a way that America is the greatest country ever and we've always been right. Now, as I said, this has been kind of building up for the last 5 years or so. In Texas, they are constantly kind of going to libraries now. They have got they've got people who go to libraries, and any book about LGBTQ, they will submit a complaint. They will take that complaint to the local district attorney. That local district attorney, if he's Republican, will refer it to the Texas State Attorney General. They have banned it in all schools. They're looking to ban it in all public libraries. This happens a lot, but it's also because the next culture war battleground is schools. And you've seen that with people showing up at school board meetings, inciting violence, and people running for state saying, we don't want these teachers telling our kids what they should learn about. The problem is, in the past, when they go after targets, they go after a target who really can't do anything about getting attacked. This time, however, it's having dire consequences, because over in England, they're using this same tactic, and they're cutting the funds to libraries to the point where libraries all over England are closing. And they're looking to get rid of the paid library staff. And let's be honest, if you were to, let's say I am running for office today. We didn't have libraries. I'm running for office today, and I said, I think every town in America should have a building paid for by the taxpayer that is full of books and that people can go and borrow. They would scream at you that it's socialism and how dare you and what a waste of our tax dollars and blah, 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 blah. Whenever they want to go after books, they're not going after the book, they're going after the ideas in the book. The reason they go after To Kill a Mockingbird is they say that it's about rape. No, it's because it's about racism. They've been going after it since the book was initially published. They've never stopped going after it. The ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union, is our defense against this, as is the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. Comic Book Legal Defense Fund has had some internal issues over the last few years, but now more than ever, it is important to support these people who protect the libraries and the school libraries, because after the libraries, they go after the bookstores. And comic book shops are an easy target for a politician who wants to show that he's protecting the children. Most comic shops are underfunded. They don't have lawyers on retainer. They can't fight these fights. That's why we have the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. And if you think that if you think that I'm blowing it out of proportion, you need to read up on what's going on. England is where they kind of learned, hey, we go after this, it gets the suburban parents who don't like us right now to like us again, because whenever you say you're protecting the children, suburban parents who are way busy and don't have time to pay attention will go, yeah, I want to protect children too. They shouldn't be reading about sex and drugs and rape and pillaging and all that. So there are a few things you can do as an individual. First is find that list of banned books and donate them. Donate them to the local library, put them in those little libraries. Make sure don't buy R. Crumb's complete Genesis, but copies of To Kill a Mockingbird, copies of Mouse, copies of other books like that are age appropriate, buy them and donate them. Donate to the American Civil Liberties Union and the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. Be aware of what's going on in your neighborhood. Get involved, because like I said, once they learn the thing is they're going after teachers. And teachers are like, okay, I'm already underpaid, I'm already overworked, and now I got to deal with this political crap. I quit. So take a look at what's happening in Oklahoma. They've got a teacher shortage. So the governor said, well, anybody who's got, anybody who has this, or this, they can volunteer to be teachers in our school. If you own a business, what a great way for you to come in and teach children about the capitalist system. And a couple of my friends who are teachers in Oklahoma have put in, hey, I'd like a couple of days off. No one's biting. Why? No one wants to teach. It's a terrible job with terrible pay, and people certainly aren't going to volunteer to do it. But They in these southern states, they've actually gone out and said these people are supposed to be watching our kids so people can work. No, teachers are supposed to
Babysitters.
teach the kids. But if you think they're going to stop with schools and libraries, no. They're going to bookstores, they're going to comic stores, they're going to all the places that we enjoy. Protect your reading material, share the reading material. You're protecting art, you're protecting culture, and you're being a hero when you do it. Joe, what are you geeking on?
Oh, I'm geeking on stuff I got through the eBays. I actually got 2 of them today. I talked about, actually, I'll do a quick mini thing because Cory got to enjoy this with me. I read the entire Chew saga. I have them all in graphic novels. I'm not even, most of them are upstairs, but it was like 12 or 13, I forget what it was. As I was going through it, other than moments of laughing out loud, because I'm in a room, we're sitting there, the bags are coming in and it's quiet, and all of a sudden I'm bursting out laughing, and then I'm taking pictures and I'm sending them to Cory like, oh my God, this is hilarious. So Cory got to know exactly where I was, not only reading Top 10, but reading Chew. So if we had time, I would have given Chew as my next book. But what I discovered was I was missing Chew to Volume 4. So I just got Volume 4. So I got new Chew to read. Plus there was some new Chew that came out just recently that I didn't buy because I haven't read the old Chew. So I got to get up to Chew on that. Another book I just got, this was through Kickstarter, The Motherfucking Fucker. Wrestling romance at its finest. Blood, guts, and tight butts. Oh, Kickstarter, I love you. Oh, who done did this? I can't even find a name. Max Allen Fuchs, Fuchs.
I'm sure that's a real name.
I don't know, but the real name of the book right here, The Motherfucking Fuckers. Boy, I'm going to get a dozen copies of this and send it to every school I know. This needs to be in your library. No, I'm not to make light of the serious situation, but I can't wait to see this. I mean, this is just, I'm just looking through it. This is just hilarious. I have no idea, since this was a Kickstarter and I got some fun swag with it, if you're able to get it, but go check it out. And it was autographed. He autographed it for me too. So I'm gonna put that down because that's gonna be a reader for me. So as I mentioned before, I did hit Half Price Book, picked up some fun stuff. I'll interview as we go along, but I also stopped at the Source because the one I went to was the Roseville one. And it was also because later that night I stopped by KFC and picked up like a way huge bucket of chicken strips. We'll come back to that in a minute, but I picked up some fun stuff as well as a book I've been missing since it came out. Super Secret Crisis War. Cory, have you ever read Super Secret Crisis War?
I don't think so.
It's Cartoon Network. Basically, who's the idiot from Samurai Jack? Aku or something? He goes nuts, gets all the villains together, and Samurai Jack, the Powerpuff Girls, Dexter from Dexter's Laboratory, Ed, and Eddie, Ben 10, they all got to get together and fight him back. I had all issues but issue 2. Searched high and low for them. Last time when we were over at, I think I took a run by myself over to Comic College, and in their discount bin, they had all the RI covers. And I thought, well, I'll take a chance because even if I don't have them, I can eBay them. Did not have the number 2. Because I got to get up hip to date with you young kids. I've got CZ Zone ready to work on my computer. I'll probably work on that about 50 days from now, because 38 days from now I'm going to Hawaii and I ain't going to worry about it while I'm in Hawaii. Although I do plan to visit the comic stores that are there, so I'll be able to talk to you about that again. Anyways, I've got it. I love it. I cannot wait to read this because I love that whole era of Cartoon Network where they were just doing the fun shows, and a lot of memories with watching it with my kids. I did start Star Trek Discovery, and I'm enjoying it. I'm only, I think, 6 episodes in. The second one, or maybe 7. It's the second one where Harry Mudd shows up.
Oh, Rainn Wilson was so good as Harry Mudd.
He was fantastic. I had a little head scratching because I didn't buy that Harry Mudd would have access to that type of technology, considering how hardcore everybody tamped down on time travel stuff. And they kind of explained how he got it. My guess is he just stumbled across it and realized what it was. But yeah, I'm really enjoying Star Trek Discovery. I can't watch any of the things about Easter eggs because, I go to see, well, then when they got to the 31st century, no! I didn't want to know that. Oh yeah, season 1. Oh, well. Anyways, to round it out, during one of the Tuesday where it was super, super cold, I went out, I hit Half Price, hit the source. I ran, I grabbed some KFC because I know when I come back, it would be just me and daughter's boyfriend. We're the only ones at the house. The daughter was gone with her friends or at work, one of the two. My wife was gone. Her and her friends went to go see the Little River Band down at Mystic Lake. I thought, hey, I'll bring home some dinner. Well, unbeknownst to me, he had the same thought, went out to some Chinese place. So he had tons of chicken. I mean, this was like a family meal, 12 pieces of chicken strips, a huge thing of coleslaw, 8 biscuits, sausage. He had tons of egg rolls and wontons and So we watched TV and gouged ourselves. He actually watched upstairs. I watched downstairs. That's how I was able to catch up on Discovery. So if you got any, actually, I'll probably finish off the chicken wings. I ate the coleslaw last night. The biscuits didn't last long. And my kids got an air fryer, so they taught me how to use it. So I'm going to go air fry me some chicken. That's it for me geeking, other than, I'm going to Hawaii in 28 days. What's your geeking on, Cory?
First off, wrestling-wise, last night, one of my favorite wrestlers from Ring of Honor showed up in AEW, and he showed up in the perfect way. We were in the middle of a lights-out, unsanctioned match. One guy went to pull a chair out from under the mat, the ring, and he was having trouble doing it. He pulled, and finally, when he pulled it all the way out, who was holding on to the chair? Danhausen! That is how Danhausen has showed up. Danhausen is a character. He's a wrestler who has a very specific character. He has face paint. He talks in a weird voice. He's odd. When he worked for Ring of Honor, he always called the owner, what was it, Chris Honor. He doesn't quite understand everything. He's this scrawny guy. He's muscled and everything, but he's not big. But they announce him as weighing 400 pounds. Danhausen, who the reason he wrestles is because he has bags of money. And whenever his money bags get light, he must wrestle. He's very nice and very evil. And he's so entertaining and so much fun. Go to YouTube, look up some Danhausen matches. I am so happy Danhausen is in All Elite Wrestling. My second thing is a non-comic thing again. Joe, go to DollyRots.com.
Go to what?
Dolly, D-O-L-L-Y, Rots, R-O-T-S.com.
All right. Dun, 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 dun. Oh! Enter the DollyRots.com. Down the rabbit hole. B-sides, rarities, and covers. This looks fun.
A new Dolly Rots 2 CD album dropped last week. You could go to Spotify and listen to the whole thing. They are kind of a power pop, punky sort of band. I absolutely love them. This new album is fan-frickin-tastic. And it's one of those things where I constantly hear from people my age, because I am middle-aged. There isn't any good new music anymore. There aren't any good new bands anymore. I've actually been reading articles about how radio stations are phasing out new music because people don't want to listen to songs they don't already know. And every so often, when I don't have my satellite radio or any other thing, or I'm at the group home and they turn on a radio station, I am shocked that many of the stations are still playing the stuff they played 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Same songs.
So are you going to go see them Friday, March 11th? They're in
Yes,
Minneapolis?
I am.
Oh, I wish I was off Fridays. I'll
They're
be in Hawaii, though.
They're at the VFW.
I know. I'd see. I would go to that. I'll be in Hawaii. I can't complain.
And they're one of the things I love about Little Steven's Underground Garages. Every week they have a new song. It's the coolest song in the world this week. Kelly Ogden, who's the lead singer and guitar player, she's in the Dolly Rots. She's one of the DJs there. They introduced tons of new music, so I'm being introduced to all these new bands and all this new music that's really, really good. And I'm kind of at the point now where people say, hey, nobody's recording good music anymore. I just point to things like that. Go, oh, listen to that. Beaches have a new album out. Go listen to that. You've got to actually go out and look for new music because radio stations, there's no money in it for them to play new music. They're scared that if people, oh, I don't know this song, I better turn the station. And they've lost over 70% of their listeners in the last 20 years. So great album. Go pick it up. Comic wise.
I just did. I just bought the Dolly Rots off their CD. I even went for the autograph one.
Ew. Comic wise, I was blown away by that Garth Ennis Peacemaker book. I expected it to be okay because it's one shot. Blown away by how good it was. The Spider-Man Beyond story is really revving up. And this week, they had one of the funniest lines in comics in ages. We're at the point of the story where Mary Jane has to wear one of the Black Cat's costumes. And when she gets into it, the Black Cat says, I'm amazed your dump truck ass could fit into one of my costumes.
Wow, and she used to be a model. Mary Jane, that is.
Yeah, but you got to remember, the Black Cat, these are women who, they both like Peter Parker, so they hate each other. It's stuff like that. The characters are so well defined that you could throw in stuff like that, and it's so much funnier when you know the characters and you know their history. And the last thing, I have discovered a new group on Facebook because of a controversy.
Dun, dun, dun.
Joe, you know how I like the Guandanaland public domain stuff, right?
Yeah.
He recently published a Moon Girl collection, which is an EC book pre-trend, before they had Vault of Horror and Tales from the Crypt and all that. And there were a lot of EC fans who were like, wait, you can't publish that. That's owned by EC. Ah! And he pointed out, pretty much everything EC published before 1949, William Gaines never renewed the copyright on, so it went into public domain back in the 70s. And there is a group now to discuss these books, and quite honestly, it's not the ones that Russ Cochran put in the collected volumes that I have all of, or that Dark Horse is reprinting. It's the stuff when William Gaines' dad ran the company, or right after, when William Gaines was like, ugh, do I really have to run this fucking company? I hate this crap. So he basically was just the accountant and let the company continue doing what it's doing. These are EC books. No one's ever reprinted them, so I've never read them. And now that it's pretty much established that they are public domain, Guandanaland and a few other people are going to be publishing them. So not only am I going to get to read these EC books from before when they were EC, but still had many of the artists. But I'm also in a group that's going to discuss them and discuss their history and find out more about them. Because even when you read a good EC history, they pretty much treat it like, Well, nobody gave a shit about the comics until they started putting horror comics in the crime books. So if you want to know about the stuff they did before, too bad. No one cared. The hardcore EC fans didn't care, and that carried on and on and on. Now there's this group that's going to dig into it, and anytime there's a new packet of comic history, you know I'm going to be on that like Oprah on a canned ham. I'm going to be reading everything that group publishes and on the Facebooks and digging through the comics. And believe it or not, kids, you've listened to us blather on about funny books and the weather for an hour and a half.
Yes. It's a Minnesotan thing to do.
And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like. Oh, hold on. I can't close yet. We got an email from Travis.
Oh, fun. What's Mr. T have to say?
I'm closing windows like, oh, yeah, there's a Travis email. Travis, thanks for the previews episodes. I always like them. Nothing much caught my eye this month, which is good for my budget because I pre-ordered the Lee Ditko Spider-Man Omnibus last month. You're going to love that. Really going to love that. The Hitchcock biography almost made it onto my order, but after looking around the internet, the artist style didn't do it for me, so I didn't add it. Thorgal. This is an interesting book. I previously picked random back issues up from the Source's $1 sale a few years back. And he and his son were going to go to the AWF, the American Wrestling Federation, which is a small promotion around here. And he asked me about it. And I said, oh, my gosh, they're still around? Now, they used to have an hour-long show on Channel 23 Saturday mornings. Mick Karsh and DJ Draper were the commentary team, and then Mick Karsh left. And then they started showing the same show like 2, 3, 4 weeks in a row, so I quit watching. And then I noticed, oh, they're not on 23 anymore. I guess they're gone. Well, no, they're back. They're a federation run by local wrestler Tony DiNucci. Their show's now a half hour. And when you watch it, it's really weird because it's, Joe, have you ever watched an infomercial where beforehand they say the following program is a paid program and the station doesn't have anything to say about the claims, blah, blah, blah.
I thought we ran that in front of our podcast all the time.
No. We're responsible for what we say.
Well, damn it.
You're responsible for what we say. But they have a half-hour show. So after Travis told me about it, I watched it. I went, okay, it's mediocre. And the problem with AWF shows is when they show them on TV, you can actually count how many people are in the audience. It's never more than 30. So I watched it. And then the next week, oh, there it is. I'll watch it. Oh, it's the same show. So Tony hasn't changed a bit. I'm glad they had fun at the show. I'm probably he probably didn't have any problem getting good seats or getting autographs because, boy, the show they had was from some small town. It was at a high school gym in northern Iowa. And like I said, there were less than 30 people there. AWF, gotta love them. And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. Joe?
Sure, you get emails. I get things like this. A friend just pointed out that Underdog's nemesis, Simon Bar Sinister, looks just like Rudy Giuliani. Now I never can unsee it. Hit my music.
Hey, yo. Can somebody call my mama? It's about to get funky up in here.
We done, bitches!